Welcome back into the Arrowhead Pride Rapid Reaction Show. I am Steven Serda, joined as always by my guy, Rocky Magaña, Kramer Sansone in the background, helping us keep this thing moving here tonight as the Kansas City Chiefs advance to their fourth Super Bowl in 5 years, Rocky, with a 17-10 win in Baltimore on the road in the AFC Championship game. What a season, man. What a season from this ridiculous team, this most frustrating Chiefs team I think I've ever seen in my entire life. They're back in another Super Bowl.
Oh my God. You can keep your effing MVP trophies. You can keep your regular season greatest defense of all time opinions. You can keep your pundit picks because you know what? We got the championship DNA. And when the game is on the line, you got Patrick Mahomes. You got playoff Sammy possessing MVS's body with some kind of crazy Santeria going on out there. And you got Travis Kelce rolling back the clock about 5 years. And this is the wildest run that I think any Chiefs team has ever been on. This has been the most fun and enjoyable run of any of the Chiefs championships because it wasn't expected. Like you didn't see this coming. And then all of a sudden they came out and they just said, oh, they woke up on the first day of the playoffs and said, oh, wait, we're the defending champions. We're to come out here and roll every single good team we play against. And this defense, Steven Serda, this Chiefs defense, we said it earlier in the year, but this was a statement game. This was a statement game. They said that this Baltimore Ravens defense was historically good. They don't miss tackles. This Baltimore Ravens defense showed up today. But this Chiefs defense, this is the best defense in the NFL. This defense shut down, frustrated, created turnovers off the league MVP, and carried this team to its fourth Super Bowl in 5 years, Kansas City. This is the best defense in Chiefs history. This is a historically good defense.
Rocky, we've been talking about it for weeks now, and as frustrating as the Chiefs offense has been at points throughout this season, it really felt like week 17 was the turning point. That late in the season was the turning point for the Chiefs offensively, where they really leaned into Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and Isaiah Pacheco. And that was the turning point. That late in the year was the turning point for the Chiefs on offense, where all postseason long, this is 3 games now, Rocky, 3 postseason wins this year for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of Rice, a lot of Kelce, a lot of Isaiah Pacheco, and with an elite defense, they are back in another Super Bowl. This is insane. And Travis Kelce said this week, Rocky, that he wants this one more than he's ever wanted any because of everything that they've ever gone through this season and everything that's built up to this moment. And it felt like you could see that early on in the game. So we got plenty to talk about tonight. We're celebrating another Super Bowl appearance for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is unbelievable, especially after this season. We spent some weeks down in the dumps, Rocky, but they're back there. They got another chance to prove that they are the absolute best team in the world. Patrick Mahomes will continue to add to his legacy, but I want to get into everything about this game because there was tons of highlights, even in a 17-10 game. But you mentioned the defenses, and the Ravens defense is spectacular, but this is something that we talked about all week long at Arrowhead Pride. And nationally, the narrative was, oh, this Ravens defense is, they're historically great when you dive into all of the metrics and all the stats and the analytics and everything. Like, it says that this is one of the all-time great defenses that we've ever seen in the NFL. And all season long, the Chiefs defense, despite being elite, despite being one of the 3 best defenses in all of football, was overlooked. And the Chiefs only put up 17 points, and they didn't do any of that in the second half, Rocky. That was all in the first half, and they were tremendous in the first half. But the Ravens defense put the clamps on the offense. They could not get anything going in the second half. And it was the defense once again proving that they are elite, proving they are one of the absolute best units in the NFL, and proving that they could go toe-to-toe against the team that everyone says this team is far and away the best team in the league right now. And the Chiefs proved that they weren't. And that's what we talked about all week long. Like, the difference being the Ravens defense and the Chiefs defense was not nearly as big as anybody painted it out to be. And we've been talking about that all year. It's unbelievable. They are back in another Super Bowl, and it's really on the back of that defense that has been getting disrespected all season long.
I mean, I mean, here's the thing that people don't talk about is that you can't pass against this Chiefs defense. You can't pass on this secondary. Yeah, the Ravens have a really great front four, and they got a good secondary, but the Chiefs secondary is elite. Like, yeah, Zay Flowers is a very special talent. He was drafted in the top half of the first round for a reason. Like, the dude is a stud. But Zay Flowers, pardon my French, he effed around and he found out what happens when you taunt L'Jarius Sneed and you try to stand over him and you try to flex a little bit, because guess what, son? You're still a rookie and you're still prone to making mistakes under the bright lights. Like, listen, like nobody said that this Chiefs team was the best team in the NFL, but this is the best big game team in the NFL. Winning championships and winning big games, it is a mindset and it is a learned trait. And with Patrick, like, you saw it. I think I realized this the most this past week when I was watching the latest episode of the franchise, and Patrick Mahomes was walking out on the field in Buffalo last week. Snowballs flying at him, mother effers, middle fingers going up in the air, just like people, just the most hostile environment you could imagine. And you would have thought that he was sitting at a tea party. The dude was just so chill, so even keeled, so unfazed, just walking out into that environment. And in that moment, this dude is just wired different. And it trickles down to this entire team that it doesn't matter what you throw at them, they're not going to blink, they're not going to flinch, and you're not going to intimidate them. And when you have that on the offensive side of the ball, where all he knows is, I got to get a couple scores up and then protect the ball and let this defense carry me home. And then this defense, despite being banged up, we lost a Minihue in this game. Chris Jones was in and out of the game, completely banged up in this game. And still, they were putting pressure on Lamar Jackson. Still, they were getting the job done and cutting off his running lanes for the most part. I mean, this was not just like an elite defense talent-wise. This was the most gritty and gutsy performance you've seen by a Chiefs defense in a game, because they weren't fully healthy. They were missing Willie Gay in this game. Mike Edwards went out with an injury. Like, this defense dug deep. They dug as deep as you possibly can, and to steal an Eric Bieniemy line, they strained for that extra, like every little extra inch to drag their asses across the finish line.
So I want to get back to Charles Omenihu's injury here in a minute, because that could be huge. That could have huge ramifications for the Super Bowl. But thankfully, they got a week off in between, got some extra time to try to get healthy. But Kramer, can we get the L'Jarius Sneed fumble back up on the screen? Because I want people to see this play, and I want to highlight again just how incredible L'Jarius Sneed is. This is a critical moment in the game for the Kansas City Chiefs defense, where, you know, it's still a 2-possession game at this point, but the Ravens are trying to get something going. And I think you could make the case that was their best all-around drive of the entire game, because their first one was really, it was just a blown play where, you know, Zay Flowers is just wide open and Lamar buys time and finds him downfield for a touchdown. But this one, it's like, okay, Ravens are going to score here. Like that's what's going through my mind. I'm like, okay, they're going to score here. Chiefs got to come back out and they got to get something going on offense here in the second half. And that play by L'Jarius Sneed just further highlights, man. And you talked about the secondary, Rocky. This secondary, and it goes to this offseason, they got to lock up L'Jarius Sneed, but man, this secondary has a chance to be something special. And I know we have a lot of question marks about the Chiefs defense as a whole and all the decisions they're going to have to make this offseason. But if you lock L'Jarius Sneed in, then you got Jamari Connor, who is showing signs of like, oh man, this guy is a starter for you going into next season and looks like he could be a legitimate playmaker in your secondary. You got Sneed, you got McDuffie, and Sneed got snubbed this year on the All-Pro. He absolutely should have been a first-team All-Pro, in my opinion, over Sauce Gardner or Charvarius Ward. Like, both those players had special years, but neither one of them was nearly as locked down as L'Jarius Sneed was. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that he got snubbed on that list. But Sneed has been a difference maker. And that was what we talked about on Show and BK this week on Arrowhead Pride. We talked about it on a bunch of different podcasts. And it's like, everybody's looking at the Baltimore Ravens like they were just this powerhouse team that was ready to run through anybody. And you talk about the Ravens in big games against teams over 500 this season. They were absolutely dominant and just had these incredible game plans. And I think even going back to the pregame stuff with Justin Tucker messing with Mahomes and guys getting into it on the field during warm-ups, all that stuff, you could tell the Chiefs were in the Ravens' head a little bit. And the Ravens have been hearing all week long, we're the better team. It's our year. We're going to take down the Giants and the Kansas City Chiefs. And it just felt like immediately out of the gate, the Ravens were not playing their style of game and not doing the things that they wanted to do. And the Chiefs defense was incredibly disruptive. And at the end of the day, that special Ravens defense, which I think is tremendous. I think Lamar Jackson is a tremendous player. I think the Ravens have a very good team. They can be right back in the mix next season. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs have more blue chip players. And that was the biggest difference in this thing. Every single one of the Kansas City Chiefs stars made an impactful play in this game in a significant moment. Like, there's no stage that is too big for this team. We've seen it over and over again over this run. But it's not only that, it's that those guys stepped up and made plays when they absolutely had to against the very best opponent that they might see all year in the Baltimore Ravens. And we'll see what happens in the AFC Championship game. Both those teams are extremely talented. But this idea that there was this huge gap between the Ravens defense and the Chiefs defense was always false. And we talked about it all week long. It never held any weight. And the Chiefs blue chip players, their superstars, showed up and played like superstars and made plays and left their fingerprints all over this game.
Well, and you saw it right out of the bat. The Baltimore Ravens live and die on aggression, on offense and on defense. They're an aggressive team, and they want to come out. They want to hit you in the mouth. They want to try to intimidate you. They want to try to do all these things. That's exactly what Justin Tucker was trying to do, trying to pull his kicker crap, putting it where Mahomes was warming up. And you saw the Mahomes, he just tossed it aside and went about his business. And you saw that with the personal fouls. You saw it with the roughing the passers. You saw it with them pulling out all the stops this game, trying to bring Ray Lewis out to fire up the team and fire up the fan base. They tried to bring out Chiefs Super Bowl great Terrell Suggs and
like
Super Bowl
Chiefs more recently with
Chiefs Super Bowl champion Terrell Suggs out into the game to fire up the crowd. You even saw him on the big jumbotron trying to coach their fans and how to cheer for football, saying the opponent wants it quiet. Please be loud now. And then they still got 110 decimals. Sorry, sons, you're 50 decimals short of Arrowhead Stadium. Like, you think that we're not used to this? You think we're not used to playing in a loud stadium with aggression? Everything they do has to be artificially motivated and pumped up. Where on the contrary with the Chiefs, with their blue chippers, like you talked about, where it's just who they are. They're champions. They know they're champions. They know that the AFC goes through them. And if you want to try to beat them, you got to come out and play your best game. You got to play mistake-free football, and you got to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, right? Like that's something that you're not going to do. And so, like, all this energy that you're spending, hyping yourself up, it's going to fail you in the end, and it's going to get you into trouble, which we saw. Roquan Smith went a little too hard at the end and got the 15-yard penalty. They were just trying to reset the set of downs, and he picks up a 15-yard penalty. And I think that, to your point with this defense, they just played very smart, very sound, and they didn't let the moment be too big for themselves where they got in their emotions. Like the whole entire Chiefs team just stayed even keeled, controlled their emotions for the most part, and just played better football. They didn't play perfect football, but they played better football than the Baltimore Ravens, and then they beat them at their own game.
And I want to talk about Charles Omenihu before we turn the page over to the offense, because I got a lot of thoughts on the offensive performance of this team. But Charles Omenihu, monster early in the game in this one. The Chiefs were really good at putting pressure on Lamar, and he's the one that finally gets home to him early in the game. Sacks Lamar, forces a fumble. Chiefs get it back. They don't wind up scoring on that drive, or they don't find the end zone, but it's still a huge sequence. And then Omenihu winds up leaving the game with a knee injury. He's not able to come back in. You could see him on the sideline kind of testing things out. Didn't look like he could put a lot of weight on it. That's a really tough blow. We're talking about, it was already reported this morning that Joe Thuney, even if the Chiefs advance, which they did, might be super questionable for the Super Bowl. And it seems like he's probably not going to be up. Nick Allegretti had a couple of rough moments, but overall, I think gave us exactly what we expected from him. The Chiefs expressed their confidence in him all week. And I think overall, against a very talented defensive line, he had a really strong performance. But losing Charles Omenihu is a huge blow. We know the Chiefs are deep at that position, but his versatility and what he's brought to them recently, like, he has been a huge part of that defense. So that's something to really monitor as things move forward here and we start getting ready for the Super Bowl over the next couple of weeks. But when you talk about the way the Ravens played today, and I talked about this, I think it was on the SB Nation NFL show, the experience of this Chiefs team, we've already seen come up big here in this postseason run. And I felt like it was going to be a big one in this game. And it absolutely was early on. Like, we talked about the petty thing and trying to mess with the Chiefs. Like, you're not going to get in Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce's heads. Like, that's just not going to happen before a football game, before one on this stage, because we saw early in Patrick Mahomes' careers. Like, I think back to the AFC Championship game where he started that game a little rough against the Patriots in 2018, because it's the biggest stage he's ever been on as a football player. And you see those big game jitters where he just misses some throws early. It takes him a while to get into a rhythm and get things going. But we're past that point now, because they know exactly what it feels like to be on this stage. They know exactly what it feels like to be champions. And I thought that was so big today, because it didn't feel like the Ravens had an answer for that experience from the Kansas City Chiefs, because they're the ones doing petty things, trying to get in people's heads, pushing guys around, talking trash before the game. And then immediately Chiefs come out after the Ravens go 3-and-out on their opening drive. Chiefs drive right down. Nice long touchdown drive. Followed up, same thing. Another nice long touchdown drive. And all of a sudden, it feels like the Ravens are feeling the pressure. Like, we got to keep up with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Like, this offense, we got to put our foot on the gas. And they start throwing the ball a bunch and not running it, which we talked about that all week too. Like, that's the easiest recipe for success for the Kansas City Chiefs, is to try to force Lamar into having to throw and play from behind. And I just felt like the Ravens had more time to try to stick to the run, and they just didn't do it. They immediately gave up with it and immediately tried to start throwing their way back into this. And we know that's not really how they want to play, but I think that's another thing that just comes back to the experience, where it's a huge stage. You don't want to let down performance. You want to get points on the board. You want to go toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes, and the Ravens weren't ready for the lights, and the Chiefs live in the lights. So it didn't affect them whatsoever. And I think it absolutely affected every aspect of this game for the Baltimore Ravens.
The Chiefs have been in the lights for 6 years now. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like, since the 2018 season, the Chiefs have been in the lights when they went toe to toe with Tom Brady and lost in the AFC Championship game. Like, that was the beginning of it. And yeah, we said all week long. Here's the thing with Lamar Jackson. He took 37 sacks this year, 37 sacks. 32 of those sacks came on plays without play action. 36 of them came on plays without a screen option. Why? Because when you get in the lead and he doesn't have a run, the threat of a run, you get him in long down and distances and put them in passing situations, they become one-dimensional. There's no threat of a handoff. There's no threat of a play action and Lamar scrambling out. There's no threat of a play action and Lamar throwing the ball. There's no threat of Lamar dumping it off on a screen pass. Because if it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, they're not going to do that. They got to pass the ball downfield. They got to get chunk plays. And that's what you saw happen today. The Chiefs got Lamar into those situations. And because of that, he had to hold on to the ball. He holds on to the ball way too long. Like, that's like here, there's two elephants in the room about Lamar Jackson's game. A, he holds on to the ball too long. B, he fumbles the ball too long. He fumbles the ball a lot. What did we see today? He fumbled the ball on a strip sack by Charles Omenihu, and he held onto the ball too much and took coverage sacks in crucial situations, right? And so like the Chiefs game plan came out. They almost played the Buffalo Bills game plan from last week. They said, we're going to have long sustained drives to start off the game. We're going to hit them in the mouth. We're going to get up a couple of scores, and then we're going to make their offense try to pass their way back into this game against our elite secondary that we know they can't pass against. I mean, Andy Reid had the perfect game plan to beat the Baltimore Ravens today.
See, and I think this just goes back to the evolution of this team as this season has gone on, because I think Andy Reid's opening script in the first half, tremendous. That's exactly what you want. You want to take a bunch of time off the clock, and you want to finish with touchdowns, and that's exactly what they did. And in doing that, you put the pressure on the Ravens to go out there, and then time of possession heavily favors the Chiefs in the first half of this game. Now, in the second half, neither offense could really get things going. But like you mentioned, the Ravens are pressing because they're feeling the pressure of being down in this kind of game. And Lamar's hanging on to the ball way too long. And, the Chiefs pass rush won a lot of times today. And then there were some times where Lamar had forever to throw back there. But Lamar's holding on to the ball for 10 seconds. And eventually he's got to do something. And sometimes he was eating sacks. Other times he was just trying to run, but he was taking way too long to decide to run. And all of that was just flustering Lamar Jackson. Like, it's when you look at the stats from this game, he goes 20 of 37 for 272 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, also has the fumble. But, and I know Gus Edwards isn't exactly a superstar. Justice Hill isn't exactly a superstar, but those guys have been complimentary players all year. Gus Edwards has 3 carries for 20 yards. Lamar finishes the game with 8 carries for 54 yards. Justice Hill's got 3 carries for 3 yards. Like, it just, and nobody outside of Zay Flowers really accomplishes much of anything on offense for the Baltimore Ravens. Like, it just felt like the Chiefs defense bringing the pressure early, the Chiefs getting those early scores, and then just going back to everything that we've talked about, the evolution of this team. Andy Reid wasn't going out there trying to drop 35 points today. He was trying to make sure they didn't turn the football over and that they ran a lot of clock and kept those guys off the field because the defense is that good. And the defense gave you an incredible performance today against a very talented football team. And the Chiefs did enough and they didn't turn the football over. That's been a recipe for winning for them for much of the season. It just took them the entire regular season to actually commit to it.
100%. 100%. And that's the whole thing is the Chiefs offense has been like an addition by subtraction. Let's just be honest. Like the fact that the moment that Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore went out of this offense, the Chiefs focused on their three studs of Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice, and Travis Kelce. They started clicking, right? And then you hit up your other complementary players a little bit. And so, Kadarius Toney, congratulations on becoming a father. Happy birthday. Like, we wish you
wonderful news.
Wonderful news. Like, God bless you. I'm so happy that you have these great things happening in your life. But limiting the offense to the players that we had today, you're right, is 100% the recipe for success. And Andy Reid knows it. Matt Nagy knows it. Like, is the offense limited because of it? Sure, it is. That's fine. You can live with a limited offense when you have a defense that holds the NFL MVP to 10 points in the AFC Championship game at home. Like guys, like the Kansas City Chiefs just held the Super Bowl favorites, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, to 10 points in their own house on the road on the biggest stage possible. Like, what? Like, that's unheard of.
That's the league MVP.
Yeah, that's the league MVP. Guess what? Like the 2000 Baltimore Ravens didn't even do that. Like, let's be honest, they didn't. Like, they were great, and but they didn't hold them to 10 points in the AFC Championship game on the road. Like, that didn't happen.
Maybe now that we've got 2 weeks to get ready for another Super Bowl, maybe all of the national media will finally do their homework and watch some Chiefs games and really dive into how special this Chiefs defense has been all season long. Because we've always known about it. It's the one thing we've talked about all year, Rocky, is like, we definitively know this is a championship caliber defense. I don't know what the hell the offense is, but that defense can go win you a ring. And the defense did it today, and they proved it. And it's so cool to see on that side of the ball because we know what Mahomes is. We know what Kelce is. We know what the offense is at this point in the year, and they're still going to make a handful of plays. And Kramer, can we pull up the Travis Kelce touchdown? Because I want to talk about that really quick. But this defense is special, and I've had so much fun watching them play. They are so creative, and they have such incredible personnel, and Spags has been so amazing. But Mahomes is going to make some of these plays every now and then too. And so him making these incredible plays, and that was a critical play to Travis Kelce where Travis Kelce lays out for it. And then this touchdown pass that is absolutely perfect. Travis Kelce winds up having a monster game today because the Chiefs Hall of Famers step up and make plays when they need to. He finishes the game 11 receptions for 116 yards in that touchdown. And that touchdown's so huge because it's the opening drive of the game. And Kyle Hamilton, the Ravens' best player outside of Lamar Jackson, their all-world safety, who my opinion, best safety in all of football right now. Like one of the most versatile players on the defensive side of the ball you're going to find anywhere in the NFL. He's incredible. This is a perfect throw from Patrick Mahomes. Kelce knows exactly where the ball is going to be because Mahomes knows exactly where he has to put it to make sure that Kyle Hamilton has absolutely no chance of making a play on that football. And that's exactly what they did. Like, I understand that the offense didn't put up a ton of points in the second half, but they did exactly what they needed to and didn't hurt the defense in the process of not putting up any points in the second half. And Mahomes was tremendous in the first half of this game. Andy Reid's opening script was incredible against this best defense in all of football that was supposed to be the biggest advantage in this game. And Patrick Mahomes only has 9 incompletions in this game, 241 yards and 1 touchdown. Not his biggest postseason game by any means, but he was effective and did everything that he absolutely needed to do, took care of the football, made throws when they needed him to make throws, and they did just enough offensively. That's all we've been asking for all season. I'm past the point of thinking this Chiefs offense is going to drop 35 points on a weekly basis. Just don't turn the football over, have Mahomes make a couple of special plays, and that's enough to win. And it was. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling to just talk about it this way all season. It's exactly what leads them to another Super Bowl.
It's great because it's what every fan was begging for all season long. This was the game. These last 2 games are the games that we've been begging the Chiefs to play for all season long, these last 2 weeks. And can we officially, once and for all, put to sleep the entire narrative that Travis Kelce doesn't care about football anymore, and he cares more about being famous and being Taylor Swift's boyfriend and making commercials and being on Saturday Night Live, and that he doesn't love the game and he's getting old and he's gonna retire and he doesn't have the same fire that he used? Can we put all of that to rest? Because today, Travis Kelce said this week he wanted it more than he ever wanted anything else, and that it's his responsibility every day when he walks in the building to make sure that everybody knows that despite his increased, public stature, that he's still the same dude he's always been, and he still wants it just as much. He's still going to work just as hard. And I tell you what, today you saw a dude out there that wants it more than anybody else. Like that, like Travis Kelce's touchdown catch, he wanted it. He wanted it more than Kyle Hamilton did. That was I want this. That diving conversion catch by Travis Kelce. What was the stat at one point? 10 targets and 10 receptions for 102 yards for Travis Kelce. Like, that's a dude. That's a dude who's out there. Yeah, it's not a guy who's out there who's trying to rest on the laurels of day in the pop star. That's a warrior out there year after year saying, this is the moment my team needs me, and I want this more than anybody else on the football field. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get that damn Lamar Hunt trophy for the Lamar Hunt, for the Hunt family, for Norma, God rest her soul, who passed away recently. We're going to bring this trophy home for Norma this year because they deserve it. Like this was championship DNA. I know I've said it before, and I'm riding with this narrative until the end. This Chiefs team is an NBA team. The regular season no longer matters. When the bright lights turn on, that Jordan Pippen DNA kicks in, and don't bet against them. Don't bet against them. You'll. It's the stupidest thing you can do is bet against Mahomes and Kelce and Reed in the playoffs.
They've proven it over and over again. I don't know how much more we can talk about it before it's acknowledged that sometimes this team sleepwalks through regular seasons. They just simply do. And this season, I don't even think it was that at times for sure, like that game against the Raiders. But for the most part, I think a lot of it was just struggles. And, you talk about Kadarius Toney. If Kadarius Toney is activated for the Super Bowl as a punt returner, I'm totally fine with that. I don't want to see Kadarius Toney on offense in the Super Bowl. I think the Chiefs got a good thing going right now, and where they're at offensively is exactly where they need to be. And we can't get out of here, Rocky, without talking about Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who once again, critical moment in the game, game-sealing reception for the Kansas City Chiefs. 3rd and 9, Mahomes goes deep, hits MVS for a 32-yard gain. for a guy that's taken a lot of heat from the fan base, a lot of heat from me. I have been very, very critical of MVS since going into last season, because I just think that at times there's some very questionable play from him, and at times we see some critical mistakes from him. But back-to-back years, man, MVS in the postseason, some game-changing plays. We saw him do it last year in the AFC Championship game against the Cincinnati Bengals. He comes up huge again, and he ends the season of the Baltimore Ravens for the Chiefs on Sunday. So this is exactly what we've wanted from him all year, Rocky. He doesn't deserve 7 targets a game. If he gets 2 targets and one of them turns into a big completion downfield, that's exactly what you want. That's exactly what we want out of MVS. And he comes through once again for the Chiefs on a just huge stage in the playoffs.
Oh my God. I mean, without a doubt, I mean, playoff MVS, like playoff Sammy all over again. And I was harder on MVS than I think anybody was this year in the during the regular season. I mean, he wasn't good, but guess what? He's proven me wrong week after week after week now. And please, please, please keep proving me wrong. Keep making me look completely stupid when I said that the team should cut you. Like make me look like a fool. Go out there in the Super Bowl and please make me look stupid and get a touchdown. Like I would love nothing more. He's got to be. He's trying to get that money, though. He's trying to retain that bag. What he's trying to do also is he probably know if he is going to get cut, he's saying, if I put some good stuff on tape in the playoffs, somebody will sign me, right? You know, he's trying to get the next contract, even if he's going to get cut. But just prove me wrong. Just keep making me look stupid. That's all I ask.
Yeah. By the way, NFC Championship game underway. The Lions, in under 2 minutes, opening drive touchdowns, long Jameson Williams run. So Lions up 7-0 early on the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know about you, Rocky, and we can get into that here in a second, but I really want to see the Detroit Lions go to a Super Bowl. But yeah, MVS, man. I still find it hard to believe that guy's going to be a part of this team next season. But again, he's given Chiefs fans some great memories here in the playoffs in back-to-back years, where no matter how you want to call him out for his regular season play, he has shown up twice now in the postseason on the biggest stages in critical moments for the Kansas City Chiefs. So just a tremendous performance from the Chiefs all around. And again, I just want to reiterate, like, the experience of Andy Reid and this coaching staff and Steve Spagnuolo, I think was another huge difference maker in today's game, where a lot was made of Todd Monken and Mike McDonald this week, and they're both great play callers. And I think Harbaugh is a great head coach, and the Ravens really got something building over there. I think they could be right back here next season. But their experience was huge today. And I think that Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid helped dictate everything that the Ravens basically did today. And I think that wound up being the deciding factor in the game too, because everything that their game plan was on Sunday impacted how the Ravens responded. And I think it totally threw their game plan out the window and totally changed things for the Chiefs.
Oh, 100% it did. The Chiefs dictated the tempo and what style of game this was going to be from the jump. Like Andy Reid came out and he said, "Hey, Harbaugh brothers, like I know that Jim is joining my division next year, and so I'm going to be his daddy for a couple more years. But here's the deal. I dictate the tempo of this game. You don't. I'm going to come out. I'm going to do long drives. I'm going to put you on your heels. I'm going to tire out your legendary defense. And then we're going to finish. And then Spagnuolo is going to come out here and say, okay, look, they're going to be pressing because they want to come out and score and respond. And they're going to try to stretch the field. So what do you do to Lamar when you do that? You bring pressure, right? You bring pressure. You drop your defenders. You let Trent McDuffie, who's an all pro slot cornerback. Trent McDuffie had a game today. Like he had a game today, and Odell Beckham Jr. just looked like an old man. He looked like a washed old man when Trent McDuffie was on him today. It was a thing of beauty to watch. And that's the whole thing about this defense too. Yeah, we're losing some pieces. There's got to be some things switched up in the offseason, but we got a nucleus of Karlaftis, McDuffie, even Williams. You got Connor, you got Cook. Like we have a nucleus of young, talented players on this defense that, yeah, we may not ever see it this good again, but it's not going to be bad. And that's one thing, the Chiefs secondary is not going to be bad. It's going to be just as good next year. The whole secondary is back with the exception of Mike Edwards. Right. And so,
and
I mean, God bless him. Whatever happens with L'Jarius Sneed after this season, I hope only good things happen to that man. Whether it's with the Chiefs or anybody else, I pray nothing but blessings on him and his family for the rest of their days after the way that he's played. But you're right. I do hope it's the Detroit Tigers. I hope Detroit gets to go to their first Super Bowl since they invented the cotton gin or something like that. And I hope we break their hearts. And that the whole city is crying because the Chiefs are now the evil empire of the NFL, and we're the New England Patriots. And I hated Tom Brady all those years, and I hated Bill Belichick because they won every single year, and there's nothing you could do to stop them. And guess what? Now that we're them, I love it. I relish in being the villains of the NFL, Steven.
It's a 4-play, 75-yard scoring drive for the Detroit Lions to open things against the San Francisco 49ers. Amazing start for them. See how that goes and see who's going to face the Chiefs in the Super Bowl here in a couple of weeks. But I want to remind you guys, if you're listening to us on the podcast, stick around after the commercial break. We'll have all the post-game press conferences. But let's get to some comments and observations before we get out of here. Stat of the game, the Chiefs ran the ball 2 times more than Baltimore. Not efficient, but dedication to the run that kept the clock moving and the de-guessing. That's from Carl. Yeah, that just goes back to what we were talking about. It's Rocky, I felt like from the very start of this game, the Chiefs dictated the game flow. From the very opening drive on offense, they dictated everything about this game, and every Ravens decision was dictated by what the Chiefs did from then on. And it's crazy to think that they were that heavily influenced, but it just felt like the pressure really got to Lamar and the pressure really got to their coaching staff of like, we got to keep up against these monsters. Like, we can't lose to these guys by not going for it. And they went for it. The problem is that's not really their game, and they could never really find it after that. And it just felt like the Chiefs controlled things, and they especially did it with the run game and these long sustained drives and trying to stay on the field and run clock.
Yeah, listen, Baltimore's run defense shut down the run game for the most part today, and fine, because the Chiefs stayed true to their game plan. And once they were up 2 scores, it wasn't like, it's not so much about picking up yards as it is keeping the clock going and then putting the pressure on back on Baltimore to actually move the ball against this defense. Like Andy's dedication to continuing to run the ball when it wasn't working is the biggest compliment that he could have given this defense today. I think he knew that this defense was up to the challenge, and that he trusted that they were going to be able to stop Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens. And God bless them, playing injured. Isaiah Pacheco gave everything he had, and even when he was getting stopped, he was running as hard as he could. And you know what? It was a hard-fought game. It wasn't his best game, but he gave everything he had, and he did enough. He got in the end zone when we needed him to.
And it's huge now. Get some rest time for Pacheco. Try to make sure he's 100% ready to go for the Super Bowl. Rashee Rice has been fighting through a hamstring injury. We saw him get up slow a couple of times today. Same thing last week. So I think everybody could use this extended break ahead of the Super Bowl, but hopefully we get the most healthy version of the Chiefs that we can at this point in the season. From Pete, let's go. Let's pay respect where it's due. Reed revamped the playbook. Wide receivers cleaned the catching up, and Taylor cleaned it up somewhat. Super Bowl bound. Salute. Yeah, it's really, we point back to all the Chiefs' big losses this season. You can always point to like 2 or 3 plays throughout the game where you're like, well, that's why they lost. If they complete this pass, if they don't fumble this ball, if they don't make this mistake, then they win the football game. And they finally cleaned it up enough. Like, they finally got it together enough where they're still going to make some mistakes. And Trey Smith had back-to-back holding penalties that totally killed a drive where they were moving it. And one of them was a Rashee Rice touchdown that was a great play design and call from Andy Reid. Gets called back because of a penalty on Trey Smith. Then he gets called for another one. And you can complain about the penalties all you want. Like, I don't want to complain about referees, but this team still makes mistakes. The difference being now that they can overcome some mistakes. And as long as they don't have critical mistakes, the turnovers, the pick sixes, all of that stuff, those are the critical ones. And they cleaned up most of that enough to the point where they're not killing themselves and they're not losing football games themselves, which I think is what happened multiple times this season by just trying to cut back on it. You just can't have as many as you had every single week like they were early in the season.
Yeah, the only, like, all season long, the only team that can beat the Chiefs is themselves. We've seen that. I mean, from when they played the Detroit Lions, we saw that the very first week of the game, very first week of the season. And I think you saw that happened to the Baltimore Ravens today. That interception in the end zone that Lamar threw, like, you can't make that throw as a quarterback, throwing in a triple coverage in the end zone like that. Like, that's the sort of mistake that the Chiefs were making earlier in the season that was killing them. And we said all along, like, just don't beat yourself because you have this defense. Like, just play within yourself. Don't make critical mistakes because the only team that can beat you is yourself. And the Chiefs finally decided to stop beating themselves. And then they've gone on this magical run of just beating all these really talented teams. And we're in the Super Bowl. We're in the Super Bowl against David Serda. Like, back to back. We tried to run it back, like, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we came up short last time, right? And living in Tampa, that was the most miserable experience of my life, losing to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. But now we have the opportunity to go into the heart of Mordor in the Raiders Stadium and win a Super Bowl on their field where one of our fans buried a flag underneath their field when the stadium was being built. We got a chance to go into the very heart of darkness itself and win the ultimate prize. Oh my God, I've never been so flippin' fired up for anything in my entire GD life. I mean, I promise you.
I see you in the background giving Rocky the finger, Kramer. I'm going to call that out. Yeah, it would be really impressive if the Chiefs get to go to the Raiders Stadium and win another Super Bowl. Just an unbelievable run. Do we have any other comments before we get out of here? We got a lot of stuff to do post-game here at Arrowhead Pride as the Chiefs go to their 4th Super Bowl in 5 seasons. From Paul, Furious George being disruptive again and again. Yeah, George, it's easy to forget about George sometimes in these instances, but I know we've talked about him a ton here, Rocky. George is a ball player, man. George has really taken a huge step in year number 2, and especially if Charles Omenihu can't get on the field for the Super Bowl for whatever reason, they need George to play lights out, and he was fantastic. He had a couple of huge moments in this game against the Ravens.
Oh, my God. Have every single pass rusher for the Chiefs spend their entire offseason training with Tamba Hali at 6 a.m. at his house learning jiu-jitsu. Because whatever happened with Tamba Hali, he learned new pass moves, he learned leverage, he learned how to bend better. Like working with Tamba has made George Karlaftis 3 times the player he was last year. It made him a double-digit sack person this year, and it made him before when Chris Jones was off the field like he was today at stretches with being kind of banged up a little bit. You were like, okay, we're not really going to get any pressure, right? You now have a second legitimate stud pass rusher in Furious George that pair up with Chris Jones, and it's made this front 4 all the more dangerous. I mean, you want to talk about why they're a championship caliber defense? It starts with getting after the quarterback, and he is one of the most crucial aspects of it this year. I mean, so hats off to everything he's done just to improve and grow in his second year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's been tremendous. And this is from our friend at Fox 4, Harold Kuntz, who's at the game. Tweet out a picture of Charles Omenihu on the field after the game. Said Charles Omenihu, quote, "I'll be ready to play in the Super Bowl." So Hopefully it's nothing serious. Hopefully it is something he'll be ready to go for. Obviously, we'll have all that for you at arrowheadpride.com. Again, Kansas City Chiefs headed to their 4th Super Bowl in 5 seasons. An incredible run, a dynasty kind of run here from the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and all of these incredible players. One of the most frustrating seasons of football I have ever covered in my entire life, Rocky. But they're back. They're back in another Super Bowl. What a year, man.
This is the most fun I've ever had covering the Chiefs. This is just the greatest thing of all time.
Man, we got everything you need to know at arrowheadpride.com. So make sure you stay locked in there over the next couple of weeks. We'll have plenty of content for you to keep you busy until we're getting ready for another Chiefs Super Bowl in Las Vegas. As always, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review everything that we're doing right here on the Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network. You can follow Rocky on Twitter at Rocky Magaña. You can follow Kramer at Kramer Talks. I'm Steven Serda, where you can find me. Again, hang around after the commercial break. If you're listening to us on the podcast, we'll have all the post-game press conferences available for you if you want to check those out. Kansas City Chiefs win 17-10 and head to another Super Bowl. We will talk to you guys later.